It was at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918 that the guns fell silent around Europe. The legacy of the devastating loss of life in the First World War has shaped the way we remember our dead. Many of the traditions now so familiar come from the determination of one generation not to forget what they'd lived through. The idea for the 2-minute silence observed at that 11th hour came in a letter to a newspaper. Published in the London Evening News in May 1919, it caught the imagination of King George V. A royal proclamation was issued calling for the silence so that the thoughts of everybody should be concentrated on reverent remembrance of the glorious dead. That there was a public need to remember became obvious when the cenotaph was first unveiled in 1919. Its steps were spontaneously covered in wreaths by members of the public. The temporary wood and plaster monument was rebuilt in stone in recognition of its importance. In the passing years, it's been the focus of each Remembrance Sunday, remembering the dead of each conflict, however controversial. But it's the poppy which has become the most enduring symbol of Remembrance Day. It was immortalised in one of the most famous First War poems. In Flanders Fields was written by John McCrae. He saw the flowers bloom from his makeshift medical station near Ypres in 1915. In Flanders Fields the poppies grow, between the crosses, row on row, he wrote. The flowers blossomed in the churned-up earth of the Western Front, covering the battlefields with their blood-red petals. The annual Poppy Appeal still raises money for soldiers and their families. Last year, a record £21.7 million from the sale of the paper flowers went to the Royal British Legion. The Legion gives support to those left disabled through armed service, provides residential care and pensions, and helps retrain and resettle those leaving the forces. But for many of us, it's the bravery of those First World War veterans that still prompts us to wear a poppy. Writer who later found himself at war, who wrote the words found on countless war memorials. Just one verse of his poem For the Fallen, published in 1914, is recited at commemorative events. Its closing lines, a reminder that we should never forget. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
World War I was war on a scale never known or imagined before. Between 1914 and 1918, some 65 million men took up arms. 10 million died in battle. 20 million were irretrievably wounded in their minds or their bodies. Above all, it was the cost in human life that remains so staggering. And it's the names of the battlefields that have stuck in the memory. Ypres, Verdun, the Somme, Passchendaele. Those who fought in these places witnessed suffering like no other before.
We came across this Cornishman. He was ripped from his shoulder to his waist with shrapnel. His inside was on the ground at the side of him in a pool of blood. And as we got to him, he said, "Shoot me." Before we could shoot him, 30 seconds, he was dead. And the last word he uttered was "mother." And that haunted me all my life, mother.
Finally, in November 1918, on the 11th minute of the 11th hour of the 11th month, the guns fell silent.
Everything stopped, and there was what I can only call as a deadly hush over everything. And we all stopped, looked at one another, because we suddenly realised that we had no objective, nothing whatever to look forward to do.
By the end, human beings had undergone the most devastating experience in history, and within it, one individual decision could change a life.
As that German came towards me, and I can't kill him. I mustn't kill him. I can remember when I joined the army, I swore I would serve my king and country. And by some means or another, it flashed in my mind when Moses came down off Mount Sinai, the sixth commandment he brought down, thou shalt not kill. And I can't kill him. I had about 5 seconds to make my mind up. I shot him above the ankle and above the knee. I brought him down. I didn't kill him.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. And I very often wonder whether the sacrifices that we made are worthwhile. That is, have the years condemned us? There was an atmosphere then of almost jubilation. Now we're going to fight and do something useful. We didn't realise what war really involved.
They were enemies with England, and that was always interesting to the boy of that age, and he was going to fight for England.
Lord Kitchener of Khartoum was put in charge of raising a volunteer army, initially of 100,000 men. By the end of 1914, 1 million had joined up.
I enlisted as a volunteer in 1914, September the 2nd. Myself and about 30 of my colleagues that I work with joined en masse.
As the new young soldiers left for the front from all over the empire, their families left behind could only wait and hope.
Now, dearest Mov, keep your heart up and trust in Providence. It is a great and glorious thing to be going to fight for England. The greatest thing you can do for me is to keep cheerful and don't forget to write often and tell me all the scraps of news.
On October the 19th, 1914, the Germans attacked British and French forces at the town of Ypres in Belgium.
A great grey mass of humanity was charging, running for all God would let them, straight onto us, not 50 yards off. One saw a great mass of Germans quiver. I have never shot so much in such a short time.
The 3 weeks of this first Battle of Ypres brought a new and awful scale of slaughter.
On our front, we appear to have lost thousands, killed, wounded, or captured. And what have we to show for it? One trench. What a waste of life. Not only life, but young life.
Ypres defined the war on the Western Front for the next 3.5 years. A stalemate, fought from trenches and dominated by death and discomfort.
How do you do, young Willie McBride? Do you mind if I sit here down by your graveside and rest for a while in the warm summer sun? I've been walking all day and I'm nearly done, and I see by your gravestone you were only 19 when you joined the great falling in 1916. Well, I hope you died quick and I hope you died clean. Oh, Willie McBride, was it slow and obscene? Did they beat the drum slowly? Did they play the fife lowly? Did they sound the death march as they lowered you down? Did the band play the last post and chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest? And did you leave a wife or a sweetheart behind? In some loyal heart is your memory enshrined. And though you died back in 1916, to that loyal heart you're forever 19. Or are you a stranger without even a name, forever enshrined behind some old glass pane? In an old photograph, torn, tattered and stained, and faded to yellow in a brown leather frame. Did they beat the drum slowly? Did they play the fife lowly? Did they sound the death march as they lowered you down? Did the band play the last post and chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest? The sun's shining down on these green fields of France. The warm wind blows gently and the red poppies dance. The trenches have vanished long under the plow. No gas, no barbed wire, no guns firing now. But here in this graveyard that's still no man's land, the countless white crosses in mute witness stand to man's blind indifference to his fellow man. And a whole generation were butchered and damned. Did they beat the drum slowly? Did they play the fife lowly? Did they sound the death march as they lowered you down? Did the band play the last post and chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest? And I can't help but wonder, no Willie McBride, do all those who lie here know why they died? Did you really believe them when they told you the cause? Did you really believe that this war would end wars? Well, the suffering, the sorrow, the glory, the shame, the killing and dying, it was all done in vain. Oh, Willie McBride, it all happened again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Did they beat the drum slowly? Did they play the fife lowly? Did they sound the death march as they lowered you down? Did the band play the last post and chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest?